You are listening to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. I'm Samantha Brown, a professional organizer and business coach. In this podcast, you will learn how to start and scale the organizing business of your dreams. So let's jump in. Welcome back to the Pro Organizers Coach. On today's episode, I have KARLYN Ankrum, and she has created a business called Snap Social, which I love the name, by the way, and thank you for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
I am so excited to have this conversation. So, social media can sometimes be a very sticky point where, you would rather almost go jump off a cliff than to have to, jump off a cliff into water, not jump off a cliff, but jump off a cliff into water, then have to deal with your social media strategy. And so I think today is going to be super helpful for you all. What we're going to do is we are going to learn how to make the most of our social media efforts, because we all know we only have so much time as moms and wives, and a lot of us have full-time jobs doing other things. And then, of course, the tangible tips that we need to move the needle in our business forward, which if you've listened to me for any length of time, you know I am all about asking yourself, does this move the needle forward? Because if it doesn't, then don't even waste your time on it. Just because someone said, oh, you should do that, or this is how it's supposed to be done. No, we've got to find what works for us and what moves our needle forward and what gives us the ability to do things the way we want to do them. We are growing this business not to build someone else's dream, not to live by someone else's rules. We are learning to do this for ourselves. And so I think this is an amazing conversation that is going to be so helpful for you all. We are definitely going to talk about some mental blocks. We're going to talk about the tangible tips, and we are going to talk about how social media is a relationship building tool, which I've not thought of it that way. And then the other thing that I thought was really cool that her and I are going to discuss is what's the difference between your call to actions internally versus externally. So, KARLYN, if you don't care, do you mind to tell us just a little bit about you, kind of what you do, and then we'll hop right in.
Absolutely. KARLYN Ankrum. I'm the founder and lead strategist at Snap Social. We are a boutique social media agency where we create content, strategies, and measure what's important to your business and overarching goals in order for you to, as you said, move the needle in business, because there's a lot of gurus out there telling you to do a lot of things. And I don't know about you, but it's exhausting. So, and I do it every single day. So we help business owners like yourself develop that plan strategy and help you create compelling content that ultimately leads to conversion, as well as raving and, paying, right? Fans and followers. So that's a little bit about me. I've been in the space 13 to 15 years, something like that. Social media is not that old, right? It's fairly new on the scene, comparatively to other marketing tactics. And I have a journalism background. So writing has always been something that has been in my vein since a young age. And so it's really cool to be able to leverage that in my professional life as well. And starting Snap Social about 7-ish years ago, taking it full time for myself in 4 years. So it's been a journey.
Yeah, which is amazing, because not only are you helping people in their businesses with their content or social media or whatever those things are, but you also understand the business side of it because you had to create your own online business. And so even though as professional organizers, we are, an in-service business, there's still, 50% of it is building the online business as well. Because if we don't have an online presence, if we don't have a website, or if we're not on Google, or if we don't have any of those things, then no one's going to find us anyways. And so I love that you can understand the struggles of the solopreneur.
Yes. Well, and I always, to borrow a phrase from kind of a social media mogul of sorts, Gary Vaynerchuk, he always says, if you're not online, you don't exist. And that echoes exactly to your point. Like, you have to have some sort of presence that is updated, that shows people who you are, as well as what you're about and then your service-based offerings.
Which reminds me, right now I'm in the process of building a template that new organizers can use where they download it. And then I have like a little course that comes with it that teaches them why it matters and like how to build out their website. So once they take the mini course, their website's done. Because
Love that.
because I got so stuck along the way. And it's so hard when you are getting information from so many different places. Like, yes, it's great to be online, but if all of your information is kind of all over the place because, Sally Sue told you to do A, B, and C, so you did that. And then, whoever told you to do D, E, and E, or, the information you have coming at you, you have to take it almost with a grain of salt. Take what applies to you. Like that is, I'm so big on telling my listeners, if what I say resonates, take it, use it, do it in your business. If it doesn't resonate for you, that's okay. Just leave it alone. Just because it's the way I've done it does not mean it has to be the way you do it. And as professional organizers, what I love, love, love about this industry is that each one of us can make it what we want it to be. Some people turn into, speakers. Some people help hoarders. Some people do more of the kind of Khloe Kardashian pantries. Like there's so many things in between of how you can make it your own based on who you are and who you want to help. But the overall arching theme is that we want to help people. And so when it comes to the actual like in-person stuff, a lot of us thrive. But when we come back home and we sit down to actually work on our business or our content, that's where we get a little stuck.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all the points you just brought up is something that I see across the board. I mean, similar with me, there's a lot of social media professionals out there. But at the same time, not everyone's me. Not everyone's you. Like you have a unique personality, but you need to be able to translate that online so people know that.
Yes. And so they can actually find their person that they choose.
100%.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
You got it. Exactly.
Yeah. So let's start a little bit as we're kind of talking about this anyways, kind of the mental blocks that people get into when it comes to all of these things.
Yeah. There is quite an uphill battle, I think, when it comes to mental blocks for business owners in particular, because we are a perfectionists, a lot of us, or recovering ones, myself included in that bunch, and that we are so close and so passionate about what it is that we're doing that we tend to overthink everything from content to caption to call to action to what platform we're even on. And then to overcomplicate it even more, we're hearing from, as you were mentioning, different gurus saying, you should do this, you should do this. Newsflash, you won't know what's going to work for you until you test it and tweak and learn and measure the metrics. And part of that, like mindset shift, and I didn't have this myself until recently. I will totally be transparent about this. I was at a conference and one of the speakers, Lauren Golden, she owns the Free Mama movement. She said on stage, we have to be willing to play our own game. And I was like, okay, tell me more things about that. She gave an example of her daughter was swimming in a swim meet and her daughter was ahead. They were doing freestyle, was ahead of everyone else in the other lanes. She was about 2-3 strokes away from tapping the wall. And she came up for air and she looked around at where everyone else was. And would you believe she lost that meet because she looked up and see where everyone else was? She wasn't focused on her own goal in her own lane, quite literally. And that's same in business. We all have our own goals, or should, right? Our own goals that only we own. We don't need to pay attention to other people swimming in the lanes next to us. They have their own goal as well, right? And so it's us against whatever our goal is, our clock, whatever. We need to ignore as hard as it is, because they're all swimming in the pool, making waves, right? And distracting you. But you need to keep it focused. Put those blinders on and play your own game. Run your own race. Swim your own lap, right? Whatever analogy feels right for you.
Yes.
Because that's the end game, is reaching whatever that goal is. And that ties directly into the concept of measuring what matters to you for your business on social. And I always see people like, I want 10,000 followers. Why? That's always my first question. Why? Because 10,000 followers don't matter unless you have 10,000 email addresses that go along with it.
And then it still may not even matter, because if your emails aren't good, they may not even be opening. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But like, you at least own that part.
Yes.
Right. Whereas like Zuckerberg like owns, for lack of a better word, like
everything.
Owns the internet.
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram. And he could be like, you know what? It's been fun. I'm going to go sail off onto the sunset in my yacht. It's been real. One, the mass hysteria that would probably happen. But two, thinking about that, once again, you don't own your followers. So why are we stressing out about growing it to this inflated number that I don't know who even dictated what it should be, when you can have just as much business with 100 followers than you do with 100,000 followers. And half the time, people that are showing you 100,000 followers aren't showing the struggle to get there, the burnout that got them there. And they're also, by the way, not showing you their bottom line.
It's so funny because I started a podcast a couple years ago that was called Her Healed Heart. And I wanted to help people, quote unquote, declutter their physical space, their emotional space, and their spiritual space. And I thought that would be something that like people would latch onto. And it was crickets. Like, no, I was lucky to get like 2 downloads. I mean, like, it was so bad. What I learned from that was it doesn't matter what you're putting out there until like, but the fact that I did go through that helped me learn how to do a podcast. It helped me learn what was working and what wasn't. And then, I've met other people that do very similar things and they're very successful. But for me, it was not what I was called to do. It was not my zone of genius. And it felt almost like pushing a boulder up a mountain every time I was trying to come up with content, where now that I'm doing the Pro Organizers Coach and it's something I'm passionate about and that I'm living as a professional organizer myself, now it's like content comes to me left and right. And I have a membership where, women pay me, and monthly we meet like 6 to 8 times throughout the month. I talk to them, help them grow their businesses, and we support one another. But just, I've set it up in a way that like it feels good to me. It matters.
It's in alignment.
Yes. Yeah. And you can feel the difference when you are in alignment with the content you're putting out and with your mission, compared to when you're like, well, I should, quote unquote, be doing this. This is what, so-and-so's doing. So let me try to mimic, or what, however we come up with those ideas, but we can feel when it's not working.
And I've seen this play out in real time with one of my clients who thought she should be doing, example, Instagram Reels audio trends. It didn't feel authentic to her. I could tell, but I couldn't tell her any different, right? But the numbers were showing that it wasn't aligning, and her audience could tell too. And I think that's even a bigger point to what you just said in terms of, yes, do what feels in alignment, what goes with your goals. But at the same time, if it doesn't feel in alignment with you, your audience can tell too. Like they know also.
Yes.
And so just keeping that in mind, and that should almost help those that are listening kind of breathe a sigh of release, that you don't have to be anyone else but yourself. And because people who are for you will be attracted to who you are, and people who aren't for you will be repelled by you, and good on them.
Yes.
See ya.
Yes. And there's so many people out there that like, I think when we first starting, we almost have that scarcity mindset of, oh, in my area, there's only so many people that need a professional organizer. So I better hurry and get all of them because I'm going to run out of people. And what I say to that is, we are Americans and we are never going to stop having clutter ever. Period.
Big some problem here. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And the more that, like Amazon and these places that can just bring stuff to our door, the more and more stuff that people are accumulating, which is good. Not good for them, but good for us, that we have job security. And it should also I also want to remind real quick, and then we'll hop to the next topic, but I want to remind the people listening that if you don't get a job, or if there is someone that reaches out, or whatever that is, or, sometimes it takes a little bit more time in the beginning to get those first one or two clients than what we think it's going to. It's completely natural. Like, that is just part of the process. But B, I want you to remember that you being you, exactly what you said a second ago, KARLYN, is if you are you are going to attract the right type of clients. I don't know how many times that I've had someone reach out and my kind of gut intuition feeling was, this is not the right client for you. But because I'm a business owner, my thought was, well, I need the money, so I better take this client. And every single time that has happened, by the time we're done with our sessions, I'm like, never again will I ever do a client like that, because they just weren't in alignment with me and with my mission and my goal and who I am. And so even if you get those clients, you're not going to be thankful that you got them in the long run anyways. So it's just not worth it. Like, being genuine is really what's going to get you where you need to be in business.
And I think at the same time, having a goal, as you mentioned, having a goal of why you started this business, I think that's something that has totally been reframed for me in the past couple of months. Why did I start OSNAP Social? I started it so I would have time freedom to spend with my family when that happened. And now I have a 10-month-old who needs my attention all the time, right?
Yes.
And so thinking about that got fuzzy because I was chasing the dollar because some guru said that $1 million business was the thing to have. But at what expense, really?
Yes. Figuring out those things. And I'm glad that you bring that up, because in the big course that I'm creating, I really would like to have, because I'm very big as a life coach on mindset and on those types of things. Yep. It's very important in business. The more clear you get on who you are, the more your business can thrive. And I think it's huge to remember that whenever exactly what you said, of why did you start this in the first place? Going back to your roots and remembering, what was it that made me decide I'm going to start a business? And because as time goes on, we can easily veer off the path very easily. And we get
distracted by the other people in the lanes swimming next to us.
Exactly. And we're like, oh, where are you all at? Oops. Okay. I just lost the race. Yeah. That's a really good analogy for sure. Okay. So let's talk real quick about what are the 3 tangible tips business owners can do today to move the needle forward on their social media efforts.
Absolutely. So the answer is simple, but I would like to dive deeper into each. So first is local content. We're going to talk about that. Next is there are different types of calls to action, both that you can do internally, meaning on the platform, as well as externally, leading people off of the platform. And then there are a few different ways to attract quality leads to your digital doorstep. And I'll just share a few of those as we kind of dive deeper.
Perfect.
Now, let's pop back to the top. So local content. I think this gets overlooked by a lot of business owners because we are, talking to the masses, right? But what we need to realize, especially from a pro organizing level, is we're helping people within our own community and thinking about where does our ideal audience already hang out. Offline typically translates and trickles over to online. Example, a local coffee shop that is a hot spot on Sunday morning because everyone loves the homemade blueberry muffins. I'm totally making this up out of nowhere.
Right.
This would then, you would want to engage with that local coffee shop on, say, Instagram, leaving comments, relevant comments, not just emojis, relevant comments there to show that you're part of the fabric of the community. Because 9 times out of 10, people will scroll the comments, because sometimes, let's face it, the comments are more entertaining than the actual content itself. Mm-hmm. And they're looking for other people who are like-minded like them. And so that gives you another visibility point for people to be attracted to what you have to say as a human and as a business owner over there to then pop on over to yours. And I will say, if you are not already, in your bio on Instagram, for example, make sure that you have your location there specific. Because I can tell you, I've found people that I love to follow. Maybe I want them to come to my house to do something, and I have no idea if they're local to me or not. And they make me go down this like path of trying to find that out. Sometimes it's not even on their website, right? I'm not saying that's anyone listening here, because I know you set them up for success.
Yes.
But thinking about that, right? How can you engage within the online space, meeting people where they're at already on social? Because people go to social media to be entertained. And so thinking about that from a local perspective, also taking the time to geotag your content will help people find you better, as well as thinking about branded hashtags that are location specific. And that could be, from the county all the way down to like the city, state. I would also then think about positioning yourself in your own content at those hotspots. So if, like, for me, every Friday, I tend to work outside my house. I go to a local coffee shop that I like. I take a selfie. Hey, what are you doing to change up your workspace today? Or where do you like to work? And like people will leave comments. I'm like, I'm going to go to there next, right? And that helps me tag that local business that maybe I'm trying to get as a client, or people in that general vicinity. That way I'm showing up in their feeds as well. So just kind of thinking different strategies to position yourself in your geographic area and really narrow it down than the whole internet. It's really focusing in on those different pockets of the neighborhoods that you want to work in. Because I don't know if it is anything where you are from. Like I'm from in the Northern Virginia area. There are different pockets that have different types of people, and not all are created equal. And so maybe I only want to work with someone in this particular area. So go to those hotspots online, engage there.
Yeah. Can I say one thing I love about that tip is because a lot of people that I've heard on podcasts teach, go onto other people's platforms and give good information and become, and which is true. Absolutely. You should do that, but like not go in and be like, I'm an organizer, want to hire me? Like, no, we don't do that. What I do like about what you're saying is because sometimes, especially when you're first starting out, it can feel very overwhelming to go in on someone else's platform and like give good expert advice when you are just getting started yourself. You're a newbie. Like you don't know what the expert advice should be that you should even be sharing. And so I like the idea of, instead of it being about what you know already, using it more as, oh, hey, I'm here. Like, what are you all doing today? Or, look at my office for the day, or look at my, mocha frappe I got from such and such. I love when I get to visit here, or whatever those things are. And making sure that, like you said, if in your bio, it has like, what you do, who you are, and where you live, then if someone clicks on that, and you could even get a little creative of like, I'm at the coffee shop working on my website for my new professional organizing business. You could throw in a few little like hints that here and there of why you're there, but you just, to keep it from being salesy. So I love that.
Like being part of the fabric of the community. So when you're going, say you pop open that I'm going to keep using the coffee shop example, that coffee shop Instagram, and they have this gorgeous latte art. You can literally comment as your organizer account, right, on the comments there and say, "Ooh, that looks great. I'll be right over." Like whatever. And then people see all the comments and they're like, "Oh, professional organizer Sally. I need to go follow that person," or "Who's that person?" And they click and they discover you. So it just gives you another point of discoverability, and also helps you integrate yourself within the fabric of the community as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay. So the second one,
calls to action. What do you want people to do after they absorb your content? They need to take some sort of action. And there's two different types of calls to action. One is internal, meaning it's on the platform itself. So if you think about it, the two behaviors, I'll just take Facebook and Instagram as an example. Facebook, people are used to external calls to action. Learn more by clicking here, and they go somewhere else. Internal is more acceptable, I'll say, on Instagram. As an example, drop a thumbs up emoji if you agree. That helps the engagement there, helps your piece of content bubble to the top of the algorithm as a valuable piece of content. right? So if you want to up engagement on your content, you're going to want to insert more of those internal calls to action. If you want to drive traffic, if that's your goal is to drive more traffic to your website, then you need to think about what are the external calls to action. Learn more, download this thing, right? Click over here, join my email list, book an inquiry, externals all day. But I also want you to think about these calls to action as invitations to develop relationships more on these platforms. What does that mean? Example, Instagram. People are used to engaging on the platform. One call to action that could eventually lead to an external call to action is, hey, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Send me a message and let me know. Then that becomes a conversation. Then you can then send a link to get someone to go somewhere else. And I think that is often step in between is often overlooked, because I think something that's really beneficial, especially in a social landscape, is humanizing yourself as much as possible. And a lot of that means taking people from your content comments into more of an intimate conversation.
As a professional organizer, so there's two things coming up for me right now. One is that whenever I first started, I was not very big in social media. And so anytime someone would reach out to me through my website or whatever, and we would have a conversation, from the moment we have a conversation, I set it up in my phone, in my contacts, as like Sally with like an asterisk sign. And then I put the word organizing consultation. So I at least know that this is an organizing client. So then whenever 2 to 3 times a year, I send out a special or a deal, I literally am sending out that brochure or that deal to them one-on-one on their text messages. Now I would not overwhelm them by any means. Like 2 to 3 is the most for the year. Now, number 2 on that though, I had a member in our membership the other day that she got the brilliant idea to go into her Instagram and make sure to go to each person that follows her and send them a direct message. Now, we all know that we hate those messages that come through that sound like a book and that the cold messages of like, hey, I can get you 20,000 clients, blah, blah, blah. We all hate those. But these are people that were already following her. And so she sent them a message. She copied and pasted it, but did it one by one. So they felt like they were getting a message directly from her saying, in the month of June, I am offering 20% off for your first session for any one of my followers that books their first session. So it was only for the people that had chosen to follow her on social media. And she kept it very short and sweet and to the point. And she actually got some feedback, some people reaching out that were interested because because I think she took the time to use what she had and then turn it into something more and just to try. And like I tell my girls all the time, plant those seeds. Tell people what you do, reach out to people. Don't overwhelm them. Don't sound, spammy because then they're just going to block you. But even if it's just a quick little conversation of like, oh my God, I was thinking of you today, and another tip for organizers that I like to use is that whenever you have a phone call, because you don't always get the consultation or the session from the phone call. Some people just want to call you and talk and ask questions. But if you can at least get a little bit of information, and when you go to write down their information, they had 2 dogs and 2 kids, and they had 1 boy, 1 girl. And so when you reach back out, you can be like, hey, so I was thinking about you. I was just curious how your kids are doing or how this such and such, however more specific you can get with people, the more they're going to be like, wow, she remembered that about me.
Yep.
And it's all about the personal connection.
And that's a great sales tactic too. I'll make it about them.
Yes.
And I would say that same mentality, it can trickle over into your social media strategy, right? Because it's not about what you do for them. It's how you can hear what they're saying, hear their pain points, and here's what I can offer from that heart center versus, and again, whatever is alignment with that person, but thinking about that and listening to their pain points. So as you're having these conversations, and I love this, is as you're having these conversations, what are some of those FAQs that you're hearing? What are some of the pain points that you're hearing? Verbatim, as you're taking notes, what are they saying? What words are they using? And then how can you reverse engineer that and put it in content so that it hits the right people?
Yes.
With their own words, because they're telling you what their pain points are.
Yes. And especially when it's a client, like anytime I've had a client that are the type of clients that when I walk away from a session, I'm like, oh, I love these types of clients. Those are the ones that I want to make sure to listen to their wording, to listen to all of their stuff, because we all have, like when you first start your business, you hear all over, podcasts, YouTube, whatever. Find your ideal client. Let's talk about your ideal client. Well, how do you know what your ideal client is? You've not worked with anyone yet.
Yeah.
So, get your feet wet, kind of take about any job that comes along for the most part. And then you will start to figure out, oh, I like working with these types. I don't like doing these jobs. Like for me, there for a little bit, I was offering real estate cleaning as like an added service because I was like, oh, $500 to clean a house, like score, I can do that any day. Problem is that when it's a real estate cleaning and all of a sudden all that furniture's out of that house and you've got to go down into every little nook and cranny and, everything, all of a sudden $500 does not feel like enough. Sometimes you just got to try and see if you like it. If you don't, it's your business. Tweak it. Take it back off of the website and decide you're not doing that anymore. Or if it's something you love, then take what you learned from them while it's still fresh in your mind and add those notes to your website. Add those notes to your social media content because if not, you're going to forget it.
Yeah. And it doesn't need to be a place where you overthink. It could literally be a 5-step Instagram story that you do. That could be quite literally right after you get off the call with somebody. As you're wrapping up your notes, I just had an amazing, prospect call. We talked about this. Are you finding that you're having trouble with the similar things? And then have a poll sticker, right? Like then you can then see how many other hand raisers are in your current follower list. And then, hey, saw that you said yes to this poll, follow up, build a relationship, engage with them because they are taking the time to engage with you too, which is pretty cool. And also the power of the internet.
Also, what you said about following up, I think we all miss those opportunities to follow up. It's literally like if someone calls, try to get back to them as soon as you can. Even if it's not a phone call, just send them a quick message and say, hey, I saw where you called. I'm busy right now, but what time would be good for you to speak with me for about 15 minutes? I'm available anytime today after 4 p.m. or whatever those things are. Same with, like if you send them a message on Instagram or they've given you a thumbs up or a like or whatever. Yep. Hey, I saw where you liked this post. I would love to know more about what you're going through. Not, I would love to have you as a client. I'm selling, here's my special for the month. No, I would love to know more about you.
Yep. Give value. I think the takeaway there is give value, and then ask for the sale. You're like, okay, I've given you lots of tips. We've already talked about it. I'm sharing a lot and you're one of my raving fans. How do I get you to convert into a paying one? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think you brought up a really good point, which is the third tip and strategy is attracting quality leads to your digital doorstep. And that is, again, giving value and then asking, but at the same time, telling people what you have to offer in a way that doesn't feel as spammy as most of social makes us feel. And so what does that look like? That could be anywhere from letting people know that you have a freebie of some sort, a clear the clutter checklist, right? Whatever, it could be simple. You're sharing the what, and you're not really diving into the how because the how is really hiring you.
Yeah.
Right. If they don't want to do it, signs that you need a pro organizer. Right. 1, 2, 3. That, here's my cheat sheet for knowing whether or not it's a good fit or not. And then that way you're utilizing some type of lead magnet professional tool that is getting the hand raisers to raise their hand, to take initiative, but at the same time self-qualify themselves as to being a good fit. And I can't tell you, I don't know why as business owners, I mean, myself included in this, we are bashful at asking. Like, hey, I have this free thing that I know is going to help you, but like, I'm not going to tell anybody about it.
Right.
Like,
I only spent 6 months creating it.
yeah,
So
like I
I'm
only
gonna
spent
tell
forever
no one.
creating my thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, and I'm as guilty of it as anybody. And I will tell you, one time I like got out of my own way and I did it, right? That's the mindset block that happens a lot of like, oh, this isn't valuable. No one's going to find this valuable. I go and I share it, and then it gets picked up by someone who put it in their Facebook group who has like, 1,000 or so people in their Facebook group. And then I got 25 new leads from that person sharing the thing that I put out to the public.
Right.
If I had not shared that, it would have not gotten picked up and plucked into a community. And so that just shows you, if you're not sharing, you're not giving as much value as you can. And no one finds it salesy if you don't frame it in a salesy way, but you frame it in I heard this pain point. Here's how I'm solving it. You're welcome.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah. And I mean, honestly, like it really is, in my opinion, the best advice, which kind of comes back to what we were talking about earlier. The best advice is being yourself, which sounds easy enough, but sometimes, kind of like we were talking about with the mindset blocks and stuff, sometimes when we start a business, we don't know who we are. And so whenever we know who we are, we know what we want, but we don't like deep down know who we are. We don't know who our ideal clients are. We don't know, or we think we know. I've had so many people that are like, I think I want this. And then you try it. And then you're like, I can't stand that type of work, but I think it's always like, you can never go wrong just trying. As a business owner, the best piece of advice that I ever got and it was from a lady that had like $1 billion company she had created from the ground up. And like, they were like, what's your secret to being so confident? And she said, it's not confidence. It's the willing to learn. It's knowing that I don't know everything and that I'm willing to learn and pivot.
Absolutely.
To me, that hit me so hard of like, if I can get up every day and come to my business with the attitude and mentality of, I am the student, I am willing to learn. And if this doesn't work, I can just pivot. It's okay.
Absolutely.
That, I mean, is everything. And I think it's the same with social media posts. You put something out, you see if it sticks. If it doesn't, okay, great. What's the next thing we can go to?
Exactly. And it's also finding the platform that you like. I know like is it's like, I don't like any social, KARLYN. Like, what are you talking about? Right. And I hear you people that are in the background saying, well, I don't like social media, period, but I feel like I have to do it. Find the 2 platforms. You don't need to be on all of them.
No.
Find the 1 or 2 platforms that your audience is hanging out on and that you like enough to be consistent. Example, I get majority of my business from LinkedIn. That's where a lot of my people are hanging out. But I also know Instagram, I love it. It's super fun. Things you hear from a social media manager. It's fun there.
Yes.
I like the creativity. I like the visual component of Instagram. And I like that you can develop more personalized relationships with people on Instagram versus what feels more of like a stuffy, salesy relationship that you can sometimes have on LinkedIn. I think they're starting to like loosen their ties a little bit over there. But I also know people are, over there spending money as well. So I think those are my 2 that I play the most on. But then I look at my metrics and Facebook is driving the most traffic to my website. So all 3 of those things are at play right now. And the way that I position each is different. And that's a lot of extra strategic work and things like that. But you have to start somewhere. Start with 2 max.
Max, if not just 1.
1. Yes.
Yeah.
And do that really well and be consistent with it before you start to broaden your reach.
Yes, because that saying of like, the riches are in the niches, but going broad, gets you broke. It's so true. Like going broad gets you broke. If you're like, oh, well, I have to be on all the things all the time, then not one thing is ever going to like take off because, and I was just explaining this to some of the girls the other day that, it's kind of like when you start your organizing business, we kind of fall into a few different categories. some women like just jump, they quit their job and they're 100% committed. They're doing this 5-6 days a week, crazy hours. Of course, the people that are doing that, they're going to see momentum faster than the ones that are like, oh, I'm going to start this as a side hustle, just kind of see if I like it because I'm still working a full-time job and I'm a mom and I'm a wife and I'm,
Yeah.
if you've only got 5 hours a week to put into something compared to someone who's got 45 hours a week to put into something, of course yours is going to grow slower than the person with 45 hours. And it's exactly the same thing of what you were saying with the swimming analogy. Like, as long as you stay in your lane, you're going to get there. Now, you may be a little slower, quote unquote, in a time frame, but at the same time, you were still able to take care of all the other things that needed to be done in your life instead of getting to the point of, I quit, no more, I'm burnout because I'm doing too many things all at once.
Yes. I co-sign all of that. Having been there and being in the burnout phase early last year, I feel like now I'm again with refocusing the why, getting clear on why I started the business in the first place. And I had also built it from a side hustle. I built it for 4 years on the side so that I could basically self-fund it so that when I was ready to go full-time for myself, I didn't have to ask anyone for money either to as a loan in order to get myself started. So it's a slow build. And I think it's also really unfair for all of us as business owners to compare ourselves to someone else, to whether it's the number of hours in a week, as you mentioned, how many followers someone has. Because what you don't see is the journey before all of the followers. Like you don't see people show you your highlight reel on social, right? Even if it feels authentic and real and more behind the scenes, like there's still things people aren't sharing with you. Right. And so it's unfair for you to compare yourself to people or feel like you have to keep up with the Joneses, right? In terms of social, because what works for one organizer and their audience isn't going to resonate with yours. So really, again, going back to the same point, be yourself, post what feels right that you can feel consistent doing, share your value before going in for the sale, integrate yourself within your community on social, right?
Right.
As well as in real life. You love a good real life connection these days.
Yep.
Right. And think about what action do you want your audience to do after they absorb your content?
Perfect. Summarizing all this up. I love it. Real quick, I just wanted to say, like, I am so grateful for what you do because there's a lot of us out here that this is like not our thing. And so I'm so grateful there's people like you that it is your thing because we definitely need the help. We definitely, need what it is that you are doing. And so tell us a little bit about where people can find you, what it is you're offering, that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. osnapsocial.com/resources. I have a lot of free downloads over there. I have some paid, like pulse check audits. So you can really see like what's working, what's not working, so that you can then pivot your strategy towards success so that you're leading with intention, right? We love, being purposeful with our efforts, especially when it comes to our goals. And then for solopreneurs alike, I love doing content in a snap sessions. And really what that means is we meet one-on-one on Zoom and we craft content together in about a 2-hour time block with the intention of getting 15 to 36 pieces of content done and dusted. So you don't have to think about it anymore.
Wow, that's amazing. So what does that run or how does that work? Do you have like a Calendly link that people can find you on with your website and then
on my website, there's a book like a book a call, and it'll ask you like, what are you interested in? And you can select content in a snap and we can go from there. And I typically do like an intro call with people just to see, where are you wanting to focus on the event, as well as what is your expectation? What are you looking for? What are the challenges? Because I like to cater those because essentially they're like VIP sessions of sorts,
right,
where I can cater it to what you want to work on. Do you want to work on only reels? Do you want to work on only carousel posts? Do you want to redo your LinkedIn? Like whatever it is, we focus that session on creating that content so you can feel set up for success, with the idea of having, again, 15 to 36 pieces of content, a quarter's worth of content if you were to post 3 times a week, which honestly, I think that's plenty.
Yeah.
Like every day is great, but also we have businesses to run, myself included. So thinking about that going forward as well.
And if you are listening and it sounds like that's something that you need, definitely go over. Give me again your website where they go.
osnapsocial.com. That's ohsnapsocial.com.
Perfect. So go to osnapsocial.com. We'll have the links inside of the show notes. And KARLYN, thank you so much for coming on and explaining all of this awesomeness to us. And I would love to have you back again to explain some more, because I know that there were so many different directions we could go in today.
That sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.
And for you listening, we will see you in the next one. You have been listening to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. Go to the show notes to find all of the links mentioned in this episode and hit that subscribe and automatic download button so you don't miss a single thing. Thanks for listening.